Everybody's here. Sipping on water. Okay.
Pass those up to other people that you think might find interesting, but they're all new.
We're all set. Welcome to the Newmarket Energy and Environment Advisory Committee meeting of March 26th, 2025, 2024. I think what I'd like to do first is we can maybe just, since we have a bunch of different people here today, do a go around. Everybody just kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll start up. So we'll start with you, Tony.
Absolutely. Tony Belanger, Casella Waste Services. Representing the company that services the town.
Lindsay Butler, town engineer.
Rick Belaski, Public Works Director.
George Anderson, Newmarket resident.
Joe Lamatino, Newmarket Town Council and Energy and Environment Committee.
I'm Paul Degnan. I'm with Casella Waste here with Tony. And just to kind of maybe put it in perspective, Tony kind of focuses in on the collection aspect of things. I'm kind of the post-collection. What happens to it after it reaches its destination?
Len Stevens, I'm a board member. Bill Rayleigh on this committee and Newmarket resident.
Patrick Reynolds, Planning Board Rep.
Julia Sinclair, member of this committee, although people here may not recognize you because my first time was last.
Okay. We do have a quorum here tonight. Okay. So next thing on the agenda is public comment. Anybody from the public like to comment?
My name is Peter Dedman. I'm a resident here.
Peter Devlin? Okay. Seeing no other comments, I will close public comment at 7:03. So tonight, as you can tell, we've got some representatives from Casella. They are the waste management collection group from Newmarket. This committee, one of the things we'd like to do is we'd like to take a look at recycling and solid waste. Okay. We know that landfills are getting harder to come by in the not too distant future here, and that solid waste landfills becoming much more expensive. So what we'd like to do is take a look at recycling. What is Newmarket doing today? What does Casella do to support recycling, and maybe give us some information on what other communities are doing? And then the last thing is, what can Newmarket do that's better? I do have just some stuff to begin with, some stats to for everybody's information for what it's worth. For the year ending July 2024, Newmarket spent $302,000 basically for solid waste and $405,000 for recycling. The current budget that we have, we've set aside $335,000 for solid waste and $375,000 for recycling. So, pretty clear, we're spending more money on recycling than on solid waste. There had been some comments in the past, maybe we just put everything into solid waste and save money. That's not what Newmarket would like to do. Solid waste, the two contracts that we have with Casella, my understanding is for the recycling and the solid waste collection. Solid waste and recycling contracts, just the two contracts, are roughly 2.7% of the town's budget. If you look at the whole of solid waste, which includes their equipment, supplies, and admin, and all of them, it's roughly about 5% of the town budget. Newmarket does do some recycling, and again, we don't really have a good feel for how well we're doing or what we're doing. Weekly, we have a curbside pickup for cardboard, cans and bottles, as well as the solid waste. at our transfer station here in Newmarket, we also have collections for metals, an area for metals, some kitchen composting. We have an area for leaves, grass, and other organic materials. We charge for dropping off appliances, and then we have these big bins for miscellaneous stuff, chairs, rugs, or whatever. So we are doing some recycling now. I don't know how well we are doing. I suspect that we could do better. So this is where we bring in Casella, and we're asking you, since you're our waste management people, what is Newmarket doing? What does Casella support? What do other communities do? And start talking about what can we do better that isn't too expensive.
All right.
And with that, I will
We got 4 or 5 hours to go through that, or this whole thing's mine?
Yep.
So Tony, I'm gonna kind of launch this, but I'm thinking the diversion piece, which you did as a handout, and I think is evident in that, those metrics that he just shared. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that while I hook this up?
Yeah, and maybe I can get a little into a few of your basic questions about what can we do better, and sounds like you're touching on the point of economics as well.
Yes.
Pretty common in this day and age, right? You gotta watch the money, and you gotta try to do as much as you can.
I will just add, we're an advisory committee. We make suggestions to the town council. It's the town council, the town manager, and Rick basically are the ones that decide, what we're gonna do and how much we're gonna spend.
Absolutely, thank you for bringing this meeting on. So, I guess let's start with just what you're doing, okay, which is basically on these two pieces of paper that I handed out. Like I said, one of them's more picturesque. What are your efforts producing on the picture? We'll tell you some of the statistics that a lot of people don't know outside of the waste industry as to, what are your efforts producing, and these pictures will show you that. I like to start off with the day-to-day operation, what you're doing, and what's producing, and what kind of reward are you getting for your efforts. So if you look at the nuts and bolts, one with the numbers on it, basically very simply it's broken into trash and recycling at your curbside, and then trash and recycling at your transfer station. So if we start on the top this is January to December 2024, so it won't match your annual budget July to June, but it's close, right? These are real numbers that came out from your invoices that went out for the last January to December. And basically you had 792 tons of recycling at the curb and 1,079 tons of trash. And when you run the numbers on them, that gives you a conversion rate of just under 41%, which is what you'll see on this picturesque version.
Can you explain, what is a diversion rate? Can you explain?
So it's a fancy way for saying, hey, how much recycling am I pulling out of the trash? And so if you add up your total tons, which is the 732 and the 1079, you add them up and say, how much of the total tons that we picked up at the curb were recyclables? 41% of them were recyclables, which is, from all my years in the business, my number one education was the city of Dover. I think I told you this, Joe, in some of our conversations. The city of Dover was the first city to incorporate pay-as-you-throw into their system, which is the system you're currently using. And they've had just about as many years as I've been in the business to perfect it, and they have. And their diversion rate is up somewhere, it hovers between 48 and sometimes it hits 50. I've seen it. I did the service to town from 2005 to 2020, and there were some years where I saw them hit a 50% diversion rate, which is incredible. Okay, nowhere in the state do you see numbers anywhere close to this. Okay, except for in pay-as-you-throw towns that are managed well. Obviously, you guys are managing your program very well. because you're getting the 40% diversion, which is incredible. Other towns that have volume control, which is, volume control is when you put a barrel out there for trash that has a limit to it, 65 gallons or 95 gallons, and that's all you get. And then maybe you'll get another barrel that's bigger or whatnot for recyclables, and they'll kind of give you incentive to want to recycle. But it's not hitting them in their pocketbook. They don't have to buy the bags, and so their diversion rates tend to be between 20 and 35%. 35 is a really high one for that type of a program. So you've got the right mousetrap that you've built here. This page to throw is working well for you, and the payoff is right there in your 41% recovery of recyclables out of the trash flow. And so you should be very proud of that, and you should pass this on to your residents and to your town.
So in your opinion, I mean, is it because people have to pay for the bags that they're doing more recycling than?
Yes. There's no way there's no conclusion you can come to that I've seen in any page throw program that justifies the increased diversion numbers than the fact that when people have to pay for this and not pay for that, they will tend to go with the free program over the cost program. And so if you can pull all your recyclables out and get away with one bag a week for $4.50 or whatever your cost is, they're going to spend the $4.50 instead of, stuffing it into 5 bags and paying 5 times that amount. And it's well documented and it's working.
Do you have a percentage of how much people throw out? I mean, not throw out, recycle, but shouldn't be? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
People
Yeah.
are tossing it in there because it's free, and they rationalize for themselves, well, hopefully this is recyclable. And then meanwhile, somebody else is pulling it out somewhere downstream.
So Paul can speak to this a little bit more later, but I'll give you the soft brush.
Okay.
You're talking about contamination, okay, which is why we got into trouble in the recycling industry back in 2018 and years before that, where China, who was a big customer of ours, they took a lot of our stuff, almost all of our stuff at one point. And they said no more because the contamination was so high. They were up in, sometimes as high as 15 to 18% of the recyclables had trash in it, and they wanted to be down around 1 to 3%. Okay, a lot's changed since 2018. Massachusetts, who has a law that requires recycling, okay, realized that if they were going to be able to keep their law and enforce it, they had to come up with a way to get rid of recyclables. And so they worked very hard with all the stakeholders, stakeholders being, municipalities and institutions like MIT and educational institutions and waste haulers, and more importantly, disposal sites, okay? The disposal sites that end up at the end of the day, they get the materials and they have to be able to sell those materials if they're a recycling processing facility like we have down in Boston, or a solid waste facility that's being tasked with putting out, letters of non-compliance, right? So they put the compliance on the disposal sites, okay? Well, it's kind of hard to have a law when you have nowhere to get rid of recycling. So this stuff all got fixed really quick. And they define recycling better through some apps like Recycle Smart MA. They were a big player in this. And again, Paul can kind of probably spill more to that than I do. He's post-collection, I'm pre-collection. But so at the end of the day, to answer your question on a more basic level, is as your materials from all these different municipalities or businesses or whatnot get processed through the processing facilities, okay? In this case, we take our stuff down to Boston, to Charlestown, to our recycling plant, which is state of the art. They tell us how good your material is. They do samples. They look for problems. And if you're not hearing anything, which you're not, you don't have a problem. It means that your materials are within the threshold. Are people still throwing stuff that doesn't belong in there, like plastics that really should be going direct to a plastic recycler versus trying to go through the single stream process? They're doing it. Is it enough to cause a problem? You know, these are plastic bags. These are hard plastics like lawn chairs, stuff like that. Those things really shouldn't be in that mix. Can they be recycled? Yes. Should they be in the curbside program? No, because they're going to a processing plant that can't process them. Okay.
Is that what you were asking about people just
I was just wondering how much
bypassing the
as a
bags?
percentage gets pulled out? Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of crap.
So I'm gonna run down the percentages because it actually kind of feeds into some of your pricing and contracting. So I'll run down that in a little bit.
Okay.
The short answer to that is overall contamination that arrives at the Boston site or gets to Boston is close to 20%, which is pretty significant, right? And that's some people that are circumventing the bags on purpose.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a small majority of folks. It is a lot of people not sure what to do.
Yeah.
Or hoping that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, today was pickup day,
ah,
so did a little snooping.
nice.
Didn't find any containers that didn't have stuff in them that wasn't stuff that's not supposed to be on there.
Yep.
Are you saying?
That doesn't surprise me.
So it would be things like envelopes, I saw styrofoam in there, I saw metal wire in there, I don't think that's on the list.
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
This was in just like 2 blocks.
So there's
Yeah,
one
so I
of
didn't
the,
see anything that didn't look like, and honestly, I missed something. I saw your list today, I was like, I had something in there that was, so I'm not even saying.
so that's my brother over there. He'll get a kick out of this. My wife, I've done this my entire life. My wife, probably every week, will say, trash or recycling? She'll hold it up for me. And I'll have to answer her, and then she'll sometimes say, why, and
Yeah.
so it's that common discussion that happens in every household. And, I think one of the things that I was tasked with here was to come up with some recommendations. My recommendation to everybody is to educate, to get the message out there, to change up some messaging, whatever the town does. Facebook, put signs downtown, signs at the transfer station. I would recommend all of those things to help, because cleaning up that contamination helps everybody, right down and especially to the worker at the plant who has to go and deal with that. And so we can talk about that.
This is a picture I took Saturday at the transfer station of the bin for bottles and cans. Okay, so you can see there's everything in there, paper, plastic.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's as low as 20%.
Yeah.
Well,
Shocking.
Surprised too.
Now, Paul, just to clarify on that number, you're not saying, you're saying that's the overall number at the plant, not directly to Newmarket, are you?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, so understand, right, that by the time it gets to Charlestown, it's a trailer that's gonna weigh close to 20 tons, right? So, and it's been mixed with other communities because of the logistics that it takes to get down to Charlestown, which is part of Boston. So, the way to really identify is to work your way upstream, to look curbside, to look at the transfer station, and say, okay, what are the common themes here? Usually there's 3 or 4, and then target your education there, right? Go to the 80% solution and just, go for it. And once you find that you've tackled that, you move on to something else.
A quick question. So at the time of collection at the transfer station for recyclables, does the driver do like a visual inspection to see
I would be surprised if he does.
for contamination, and then if it's past a certain threshold, it won't get collected, or does it always get collected as recycling? Yeah, the Newmarket transfer station.
And then always looks in my truck or my car to see like that.
Oh, okay, I see, I see.
That's what Charles does, right, your operator, yeah. And I had a conversation with him today, great guy, very friendly, I think he represents the town well. He is trying to police that.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I've never been to the transfer station, admittedly.
I've
so
been to those
drop-
facilities before, and you could have 10 people there, and there's still gonna be things that sneak through.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He's trying hard to police that.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, we have one person, and there are times where there's 30 people there at once running around.
I see, I see.
It gets pretty busy, people like to go there. But if he like sees Patrick every week, he gets comfortable, like you know
I see, yeah.
who you have to babysit and who you can trust.
Right, right. That makes sense. I've never been to the
So
transfer.
some people might say, oh, he never talks to me. He knows.
Which one, which category?
Yeah, yeah, that makes
Because
sense, yeah.
he just does this, there really needs to be more people up there, but that's just not gonna happen.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. My only, collection experience is from a higher education perspective where, we had a hauler on site who do a visual inspection of a dumpster and, the contamination looked to be greater than like 15%. That'd be hauled on as trash, so
And
that's.
we've been spoken to, like, over the years, I've been here a long time. There have been times where they're like, hey,
Gotta clean it up.
you gotta get your act together.
Got it.
And that, we just don't hear from them, so that's good news to me.
Awesome.
That was the general consensus, because I did check on this after talking with Joe. And the general consensus was that, that there's no, large problems. Are there the bags that shouldn't be in there? It's hard to let people get away from the number system. The number system was, 2s and 1s and 5s and 3s, and everyone said, oh, it's got a triangle on it, so it must be recycling. It's hard to get people away from that. But that's really the challenge. That's why, to Paul's point, signage can help a lot. That's why, sometimes the picture is better than the numbers, because people can relate to a picture easier sometimes. So, but the overall right now is that you don't have a serious problem, but can it be improved on? Absolutely. As you've all seen, you saw, what, curbside, or you saw it at the transfer station?
No, that was just curbside.
Curbside, yeah.
One question I had about the transfer station is, have we ever thought about having it more separated there, like having just one for glass, one for cans, and one for whatever else we could. I know we have one for cardboard, so mostly when you look in there, it's less, there's less junk in there that shouldn't be in there, because it's pretty obvious it's just cardboard. Or would that be too much work or too much cost to do it that way?
Well, one of your slide questions you have, what are other people doing, right? What are other towns doing for recycling efforts? And there is a large array of operations that have different types. One is what you're calling source separation, okay? Let's separate, let's let the people do the labor, your residents, and make them separate out the aluminum, which is very valuable. It's about $1,300 a ton right now, okay? Tin cans, again, almost always worth something, okay? Glass, plastics, papers, and then cardboard. So some places have the ability to do that. They have a lot of space, and they can make it work. Others, they are limited on real estate, so they have to do the best they can in the space that they have. It's funny you mentioned this because me and Paul were talking earlier about the transfer station and looking at the numbers from last year, and one of the suggestions that we thought would maybe help improve is possibly going to a full single stream mix, where you mix your paper and your bottles and cans all in one container. And even possibly go into compaction, where, if you look at the weights per load that you have right now, they're going from here to Allenstown, New Hampshire, they're very low, 0.7 of a ton, 0.5 of a ton. That's a very little bit amount of weight to travel a long distance. So sometimes compaction, which can do a 5-to-1, possibly, will reduce your trucking 5-to-1. You'll have some higher equipment costs, but you'll have less trips. And you can sort of take the savings from that sometimes and you can put it towards increased education, or maybe you have some room left over to do some other sort of separating, like aluminum cans or whatnot. But those are some of the things that you could discuss.
I think, just to kind of double up on that is, as I understand it, your transfer station is kind of it's a convenience. Most people have curbside in town. Whereas a lot of other communities, their only solution is the transfer station, right? So they're dealing with a lot more volume. Part of the problem with separating out everything is, one, the public hates it. And two, you have to save up enough of that to get it to market, right? You have to get these commodities to market. The question has been asked for a long time, why did we go single stream? And one is it helps dramatically with collection, the logistics piece, right, which is a huge part of sustainability if you start to go down the sustainability path. The logistics piece and the energy involved and the cost involved is definitely something to look at. And so from a collection logistics, single stream really works. The second piece of that is that the public likes convenience and they don't like inconvenience. And so to go to a facility where they have to put the onesie twosies and try to collect up a certain amount, and then you have to really keep it clean, it becomes very difficult. And so what we find is that, and our buzzword is single stream. It's how recycling gets done, because people find it easy and then they can move on to other things. And that's where we've come. That's where single stream it really kind of evolved. So, and that's kind of what Tony is saying, right? If you're the customer that goes to your transfer station, why are you using that versus curbside? And a lot of times it's because, I'm getting ready to go on holiday, or I had a big party at my house and I've got all this extra stuff. Well, I do single stream at the curb where I put it all together. But if I go to the transfer station, I'm being told I have to separate containers from paper products. All I would say is, again, for ease and convenience, and to maybe even increase diversion, you might want to look at just putting those two things together and focusing on that. And then you could probably, I don't know what your power situation is down there, but you could put in a compactor for all of it, and now all of your recycling is in one unit. Just throwing it out there, something to investigate. There's,
We are planning to do a compact.
We are looking at trying to get a compactor up there for the trash.
For the trash.
That's what we're looking for right
Do you have three-phase? I saw the power. At the
It's
pole.
single phase.
It is, yeah.
And to get it there, it's way far away.
Can you get 100 amps to the property?
We've got it, so we could get, the unit, it's just,
Well, if you can do 100 amp on a regular phase, then you can use a converter to 3-phase, and that works just as fine. In fact, we have one going into Raymond, possibly, one of our transfer stations that we operate for the town of Raymond.
yeah.
Town of Bedford has been operating off of single-phase power with converters for close to 20 years now.
You just wouldn't be able to run both machines at the same time, and it's a little slower, right?
It depends. They've come a long way with those converters.
Have they?
So I don't know, but you could find some people that could, that are using it, that could answer those questions.
Mhm.
Your trash, so have you found that, you feel, maybe I'm getting off track. If I am, tell me, Joe.
Yep.
But, on your trash at the transfer station, you run about you run 48 yards once a week, right, 32 yards a week. Have you done some cost analysis that show that compaction would save you money compared to the front load?
Because we were thinking, because they're overflowing now, so we're going to have to add more, and so forth. So that's what we're kind of working on
Frankfurt?
Yeah. So we're kind of talking about that.
Yeah, so all I can say is you may want to look at both sides of the equation. Which one will give you the biggest economic impact? As Paul was saying, single stream is easy. You're kind of doing it now. You only have one product, right? Paper and non-paper, right? So making it easier for them by just saying, hey, everything goes into this box. But if you look at those 106 trips a year that we're making every month, you know, doing the Monday, I don't know how it came up to 53 instead of 52. There must be an extra one for Christmas. 106 trips to Allenstown a year. Cut that down to 25% of that. That's a lot of money back in your budget to help support your equipment. And well worth looking at both sides of the equation money-wise, just to see how many trips will you save by a 5-to-1 compression or a 4-to-1 compression on your recyclables. And then maybe you can use that to solve your trash problem a little bit better with maybe, you know, a different type of container collection for that if you're starting to grow there.
But that is something that this department's working to try to do something different up there. And that's why we poured that pad and got the pedestal.
So if I continue on with the quick part, we did the curbside. Curbside was outstanding. When you look at the transfer station, it's more impressive if you look at it the standpoint of trash versus recycling, but there's a dynamic there that Paul was pointing out that the transfer station is, I assume for convenience, but I'm guessing there must be some necessity to it also, people that don't, they're on a class 6 road and you can't get curbside or.
There are some people, believe it or not, that don't like to put it out because they feel the animals, the wind blows it all over the place. They'd rather just leave it in their garage, go up there and sell it.
So that's convenience. Are there any ones that are, this is all we got, so we have to use the transfer station? Is there small businesses or anything that are allowed to do it or something like that? No. So it's almost all residential.
They're all pretty much residential. And there are a couple of people not even maybe 1%.
But to the committee, the point I was making, if you look at the numbers, very simplistic, 80 tons of, put it over on the wrong bucket, but 76 tons of recycling to 80 tons of trash gives you a 48.89% diversion rate at the transfer station. But again, there's some more at play over there than curbside. Curbside is pretty consistent. Who knows what's happening at the transfer station, but still, it's working for you, right?
Yeah.
But when you're taking it for trash, they're pulling a lot of recyclables out.
I don't know if you guys understand that diversion thing so much, but that's, in my opinion, very well for Newmarket.
That's what he said.
You know what I mean? Like,
I attribute most of it to patients. Because at the transfer station, they also have to buy bags from the dumpster.
that's correct.
Okay? So they're gonna wanna buy as few bags as possible, you know, keep the money in their pocket. Recycling's free, trash costs money. So, it's working for you. So yeah, you should all be proud of that. The other stuff, can you improve? Absolutely. As we were talking. Education, trying to get plastic bags, you know, that's one of the number one contaminants. Junk plastics, you know, stuff that looks like it's recyclable, has a number on it, but it really doesn't belong in the bin. It should be taken separately, like the bags, maybe to a market basket or whatnot, to go direct and away from the processing. But as Paul was saying, signage would help a lot. And there are some grant money out there for recycling that you could possibly get help with. Paul, do you know America the Beautiful? Are they in on that, the transfer station side at all, or is that strictly?
I don't know in this area, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
It's well worth looking into as a committee that has this goal in mind to help the city to find out, maybe help find out what's out there to help fund some of these educational items. We'll help you any way we can, obviously. You see, we got all kinds of resources at our disposal for handouts and whatnot. Glad to help, but those can be big money savers if you can get a grant for signage.
Do you see like specialty recycling streams as an opportunity to kind of curb that contamination rate? You know, I'm thinking like centralized plastic bag or electronic waste or something along those lines. Do other municipalities have success in that?
What I've seen, and Paul might be able to expand more because he's got a lot more on that side than I do, but what I see is a lot of grassroots efforts that are out there. Facebook pages that are driven by community that want to help. Like Paul was saying, his wife wants to know, why can't this thing go in the recycling bin? The reason it can't go in the recycling bin is it's just not a match for that particular type of recycling. But she's right, it is recyclable, right? And so grassroots is very, very popular from that standpoint, because you have a lot of people that are environmentally minded, and they want to try to do more for the environment by pulling stuff that can't go to the curb or to the transfer station out anyways. And those efforts pay off. You just have to have a spark, you know?
I mean, I think to answer your question, yes, some key items. I mean, believe it or not, everyone's heard of reduce, reuse, recycle. Even Casella would say, you should still try to reduce your waste. I mean, I know we're a trash company, but it does make sense, and it's the number one way that you can lower your costs as a town, as a family, or whatever. And it's in that order, right? That's the hierarchy: reduce, then reuse, and if you have to, recycle it. At least do that before throwing it away. Again, I think the transfer station, I was pleased to see, you had an area for e-waste and batteries, which is super important from a safety standpoint. Would strongly recommend that you get the word out there about what to do with plastic bags. Plastic bags can usually go back to the Walmarts and the Stop and Shops of the world for that film type recycling. It shouldn't go in the curbside or the transfer station recycling. Textiles, right? So you have a lot of those kind of charity bins. Strongly recommend textiles. I think it's, mid-teens as far as percentage of overall waste. So if you can direct textiles, shoes, and things like that for reuse, even things that might have holes in them, those textile, it's either going to go for reuse as goodwill type things, or it will get recycled as a textile, which is a good thing. It's a little bit of a side note. Casella is really trying to drive a market forward for mattresses and box springs. So it's those little niches that I think will take a lot of that bulk and other waste materials out of the stream to help you divert as much as you can and try to save. So I know we're probably pressed a little bit for time. I think what we're kind of getting into a little bit is, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands, the recycling that the town produces is being recycled. Right? It's reaching one of our plants. The Charlestown, which is also Boston facility, that it ultimately goes to. It goes to the Allentown's transfer and then down to Charlestown, is actually the fourth largest recycling facility in the country. It was just redone almost 2 years ago now. And so really, I know state of the art gets thrown around a lot, but I think it kind of fits the bill here. And I don't know, has anyone, I don't know, I love YouTube. And so has anybody gone on YouTube and looked at recycling facilities at all? Why don't we just show this video so you can kind of see what we do with the recycling? I think that's important for everyone to know. And this is 3 minutes and 9 seconds. So I'm not sure if my speakers are going to work, but let's see.
More than ever, our customers are asking for more sustainable solutions to bring materials to their highest and best use. And the facility that
Try that again.
we're here at today in Boston is at the heartbeat of that.
Not like anything.
Did we lose something there?
No, it's probably me.
Oh, did you,
Let's see.
you have the receiver?
More than
Yes,
ever, our
he does,
customers are
he's gonna
asking.
share a video.
If she gets it up, we'll flip that back up. But let me just kind of segue over to,
Okay, is that,
Well, Paul, one other question I think that we had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because we're gonna make the decision, but more what could we do to support whatever the outcome is? I think the town is, probably has to look at, their budget and, I know that there's also a move to the automated system, so you don't have individuals throwing the trash into the truck. It's done by, I think Stratum even has that system already. That you guys service them, or they pick up the whole container and dump it into the truck with an arm or something like
Right.
that.
yeah,
And it's potential we could end up with that kind of system. I think we're all understanding that is. And if we did, is there any practice that's good that we could look towards to still keeping our recycling going?
Well,
the most automated systems have a container for trash and a container for recycling.
Right.
And that container for recycling is usually single stream recycling. What I always, what happens then though, right, is that now the driver is he's actually not, he or she is not looking in the container for that contamination. And so there are some systems, the newer systems are putting cameras in and kind of catching it after the container's been emptied into the truck. But it is a way to identify a household or a business that's contaminating that material. So it does provide feedback, it just doesn't catch it in time.
Right.
So the key there is, again, I think an education in the initial rollout, and then, much like you did today, a spot auditing of certain parts of the route where you put people out ahead of the driver and they spot check the containers. And if they see something that's excessive, they'll sticker that and then provide information to that resident, that selectman, that energy board, whatever, to help try to clean that stuff up. So if that answers the question, I mean, I think that the costs around automated collection, there's benefits to it, there's also some other costs, but I would just say it's where collection is going, and probably the biggest reason is for safety and manpower. Now it's usually just one person on the truck that's operating the truck and collecting. It's curbside with a side loader, and it's much safer. The safety incident rate of rear load collection and manual side load collection, the safety incidents are just crazy. And so there's a huge push in the industry to get away from that and automate as much as possible. Good with that, or?
Well, the one thing, so I'm going through this is a major initiative all across the Northeast for waste companies to try to automate their non-automated customers, their manual. And in particular for this town, what I would say is worth looking at is you have a pay-as-you-throw program. And normally, it wouldn't even be a conversation, but when you have a pay-as-you-throw program that's financing your budget, a good portion of it, right? The question I get, Dover's going through it right now. They're taking a 2-year evaluation period. Figure out how can we go automated, because they want to, but how can we continue to get this revenue from our pay-as-you-throw to help pay for the program, which will also help keep our recycling rates stellar. So I'm just suggesting that as you start talking about this, that you keep this in mind, that that's going to be a question that you'll have to address. Paul makes a great point. Newmarket was one of the towns that I don't know if anyone here remembers it. Do you remember the gentleman that got killed down in Queen Street? He was so he was with a company that Casella ended up buying, but it was, we hear this all over the country. I don't know why, but it's just like school buses. Why do people run the school buses? I don't know. Why do they run to the back of trash trucks? I don't know, but it's very dangerous out there for labor. So it's that's one of the reasons that they're trying to, to take it out. But before Paul gets into commodity markets, I know we're short on time, so I just want to touch on one topic that Paul started on. I call it the dynamic duo. Right now, I'm a waste counsel for the state of New Hampshire, a governor appointed. I don't know if you've ever heard of the New Hampshire Waste Council, but we sit in front of DES and oversee their operations. And so a lot of the conversations that are going on with the new waste regulations are centered around compost and mattresses and box springs. And so they're trying to mirror what other towns, states are doing because they've had good results. So they see Massachusetts with their recycling ordinance and their organics ordinance and now their mattress ban. And it's spreading. So it's coming to New Hampshire. And that's something worth talking about also as your committee is how can maybe you eventually incorporate organics recycling into your program somehow. It's not quite here yet, but it's coming. So it's a good time to start talking about it to get ready for it.
We do at the transfer station, there is there's a compost thing for kitchen scraps and whatever, and then we have another area for grass clippings and leaves and whatever.
Yep.
The composting, I don't think it's used that much. That's just my gut feeling. The composting, yeah, the food.
Mr. Fox is actually used pretty,
We had to add a bin, actually.
We did.
Yeah.
We added a bin.
So when I was in Dover, when I first did it, they told me we had a limit of 33 pounds per bag. And I couldn't fathom that, right? Why do they have this rule about 33 pounds? Well, the previous hauler, Chief Bernard, had said of that, we're not picking up anything more than 33 pounds. And I couldn't, what it is, it's all food waste. When people pull all the recycling out, what's left? It's really almost all very heavy material. It's food scraps, okay? And a few other things, right? We had to have a scale with us for the first year or so for the people that were trying to, put 50 pounds of material into a bag that really should only be holding 33 at the most. So, but when you pick up a whole bag like this and have 33 pounds, you know that you can reduce your costs somehow by getting that food waste out. So that's why it's so popular. It's a high percentage of weight. When you look at the waste stream, recycling, it's cardboard and newspaper, and in trash, it's food waste. So, well worth it. Great conversation to have in this day and age. Just that they came out with a new law for this year that's going to be, I think it's 500 pounds. If you produce more than 500 pounds a week, then, and there's a recycling facility, a composting facility within 20 miles of where you are, then you're required to compost. And that's going to eventually get bigger and bigger as more facilities open up that are within 20 miles. You don't have one within 20 miles, I don't think, but they're going to start popping up. And when they do, then the Mr. Foxes of the world are also going to pop up more, and you'll see more low-cost solutions. And Casella fully plans on being part of that solution as it comes into reality. So it's a great discussion for a committee like this to start researching and reaching out, and seeing what other towns do, and talking to your town council.
Do you want to go into your presentation?
Yeah, again, I'm a little sensitive on time, so, but I know that usually there's some discussion around okay, well, what's happening to all this stuff, right? And is it really being recycled? And what should be in there and what shouldn't be in there? And again, we could probably spend hours on it. Ultimately, though, it's all mixed together, right? It's that scrambled egg, and it has to go to a facility or somebody has to separate those things out, right? Um, so an empty water or soda bottle can't be recycled with a piece of cardboard, right? It doesn't go to the same place to get made back into something new again. But almost all of those items, all of those things become commodities, and those commodities have value. And that value is, just a few dollars a ton, all the way up to, well over $1,000 a ton based upon the different commodity. The two things that weigh down the value of a ton of recycling or a ton of single stream is the contamination in there, or also what we call residue, and the glass. The glass that comes out of a single stream plant naturally has some contamination in it, and there's not a whole lot of uses for glass. Glass used to be made very frequently back into glass bottles and jars. You'll notice that over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, the whole glass packaging has dramatically reduced. And so there's really no market for glass except for as an aggregate in this area. I will tell you that I also worked with a facility in Auburn, Massachusetts, that's near Worcester, and Willimantic, Connecticut. We actually load our glass on rail to go down to North Carolina to be recycled back into glass. So it's a little bit geographical as to where the markets are, but I can tell you that, as you can see on the screen, the bulk materials that make up a ton of single stream are cardboard. What you don't see on here is mixed paper. I actually didn't make this slide. So mixed paper is also a big thing, and mixed paper is your newspapers, magazines, some junk mail, but also your cereal boxes and shoe boxes and things like that. It's a different type of paper than cardboard. So it tends to get recycled by different types of mills. A lot of people ask where it goes. So the cardboard, for example, Southeast Asia, India is a huge consumer of cardboard and mixed paper now. When China backed away from consuming post-consumer paper that had some plastics mixed in with it, they were like, hey, enough's enough. It did send a message throughout the entire industry that we need to clean things up. That's why a lot of plants, and really Casella in the Northeast, huge investment into new technologies for sorting and processing material to help clean up the stream as much as possible. But India tends to consume a lot of the cardboard. There's multiple private mills over there that make it back into liner board. If you tear a piece of cardboard, that wavy medium that's in the middle, that's 100% recycled fiber. Plastics, you heard Tony earlier talk about the numbers of plastics. They're all different types. And you can imagine a lot of people think about metals when they think about different types of metals. Copper shouldn't be recycled with aluminum or steel. Well, the same is true of plastic. HDPE, which are milk jugs or detergent bottles, high density polyethylene, is very different than a polystyrene or a PVC, right? So they need to be kept separate. The markets for those items are really focused on number one, which is PET, that beer, water, or soda bottle. Number two, both milk jugs being that opaque, no color, what we call natural HDPE, and then colored HDPE. Number four being a rigid number four, like a butter tub, not a film number four. Polypropylene is number five. That's a yogurt cup. That's recyclable. It's a tub. And number six is basically trash. So that red Solo cup that you throw in the recycling, that's going to end up as trash. And number seven is kind of an other category. Arizona iced tea bottles are a frequent number 7, and that will get recycled as well. So there's all different types, and we sort those out, and the new technology really focuses on optical technology. So the optical units will use infrared, will determine what the material is, and then sort it by air. So,
Sorry, what was the number 3?
I'm sorry, number 3 is a PVC, and PVC across the board is trash, except in vinyl siding, but vinyl siding doesn't belong here, so. When you heat PVC, it releases basically a chlorine gas, so nobody wants to pelletize PVC.
So with you say the optical technology is what mostly sorts it. So do black plastics actually get sorted, or?
Yeah, so you've done a little bit of homework. Black plastic traditionally is difficult for us in the recycling industry. What happens is the optical units have, there's a conveyor belt that's carrying the material past the optical unit. The conveyor belt is black and the black plastic, so it has a hard time discerning the difference. We can hand sort, and we do to a certain degree, of some black plastic into the mix. The mills that take plastic for recycling don't like a lot of black plastic, because as soon as you mix black into anything, it deteriorates the color and their options of making other products. So they hold us to like a 5% or less black plastic.
So if I'm at the bin and I have my black Chinese food takeout container, would you recommend I throw it in the trash?
I would recommend you throw it in the trash. Sure. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. It's probably just going to be experienced trash. You're better off going the fast route there.
That's cool.
The top lid that's kind of clear,
So that's good.
that's all good all day. So, yeah. So,
Great. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So, we use the word recycle. To me, the word recycle means take one aluminum can and I recycle it into another aluminum can. With plastic, we're reusing it, but we're not taking those bottles and turning them into those bottles again, are we?
On 2 occasions you are, but if you read any news articles right now, they're really bashing the heck out of plastic. And I understand why. It is definitely not as easy and as thorough as an option as aluminum is. Aluminum totally gets melted back down, made back into aluminum sheet, made back in the beverage containers. Part of that process is the sanitation of that, right? And that's part of the problem with plastics, is that they've held other things, and so to be made back into a food grade item has become, it doesn't always work. The FDA has something to say there as well, which I think they should, right? I will say that there is a certain amount of PET, which is recycled PET, back into bottled PET. So PET is that number 1 soda or water bottle.
The clear bottle.
Clear bottle. That has a lot of recycled content, dependent upon the ultimate source of that. Coca-Cola has dumped a crazy amount of money into the recycling industry because they're really trying to close that loop, which I give them a lot of credit for to do that. But I mean, your point's well taken, right? The question is do you call it recycling? People throw terms around. I guess a lot of these things, and especially plastics, do they take the place of a virgin resin in the different process, right? So, listen, there's no doubt that if I make it back into black drainage pipe, which is a huge consumer of detergent bottles, right? The people that make that black drainage pipe, does that black drainage pipe ever get recycled after that? Right? Is there a constant life cycle? Whereas aluminum and nice clean glass, there's a constant cycle there. Paper could get recycled 7 times before the fibers get so small that it basically goes out in the wash water. So, I hear you, but it's still better than putting it into a landfill or burning it
Right.
and then using virgin resin to make that product. A lot of PET goes into textiles. So, most of your textiles, polyesters, are plastic products. And a lot of those textiles do get recycled if they're put into the right textile bin. And they get recycled back into plastic items. So there's definitely some, but far less with plastics. And listen, again, I would go back to reduce, reuse. If you can use, do the reusing water bottle and avoid single-serve plastics in general, we still promote that. So. Aluminum by far is the best, by the way, because you're saving that. If you think about it, you save the energy going all the way back to the original mining of the ore, right? And so, if you can recycle aluminum, it's definitely worth it.
Plus, it sounds like the market's pretty good. So if we were,
Well, it's even getting better with tariffs.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's going to get wacky with aluminum and copper and things like that. But yeah, it's aluminum has always had, it's always been one of the higher value items. Actually, believe it or not, right now, those opaque natural milk jugs are more value in the recycling stream than any other product. And that has a lot to do with, probably going off on a tangent, but it has a lot to do with the concept of trying to buy something that has recycled content in it. And a lot of manufacturers want to have a certain percentage of recycled content. And that type of plastic provides them that opportunity better than any other one.
where's the sort of waxy milk by? It's trash.
It shouldn't go in the stream at all. So,
See a lot of those in there.
yeah.
I gotta tell you, I encourage anyone at this table to, if you wanna know about products, that Recycle Smart MA Recyclopedia, they call it,
Uh-huh.
very well put together. That's where I first learned about what Paul was just talking about. I had so many people asking me, well, the orange juice,
Yeah.
and then they start talking about milk containers. Well, there's plastic milk containers, there's, ones that have plastic coated on them and so on and so forth.
What's great about that is that you can plug in items that you don't even really think about, things that are in the waste stream, and it will tell you what to do.
Yep.
So if you had a lithium-ion battery, it will tell you, it should go to universal waste and be handled, whatever, paint, mattresses, whatever.
Yeah, we usually do
I
it.
believe it's branches.
That's awesome.
At works, right, Rick? You still do that, right? Yeah.
It's always good right now.
Yeah. Yeah, those little things, again, getting back to the specialty things, shred days, whether you promote it at a bank or do it at the transfer station or whatever. Because a lot of people, we hate shredded paper in Singleton, by the way.
Oh,
Shredded paper comes out as trash in the system.
So we'll be doing
You should-
guys a
yeah, you
favor
should send
if
us- you
encourage
should-
people to buy more canned beer than bottled beer.
I try my best, I really do.
You should send us a top 10 things you hate to see in single
Ah,
stream,
yeah.
and we will put that out.
Number one
I
is
promise you,
plastic
I love that.
put that
I
out
love
to
that.
the public if you get us that list,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
or
Yeah.
if you get it to Tony.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and another thing,
That would be great
how much
to
time we have
have that.
left here, but, Paul was gonna run you a YouTube video that we had some technical glitches there, but, this plant down in Boston, it's kinda like, the Star Wars version of, what we talked about for national defense, but it's right down in Boston. This new line they put in, the optical sorters, and, they spent several $1 million, I'm not sure exactly how much, but, to improve this line. And it just does superhuman sorting, is the way it works. It laser beams go out, they read the genetic material of the plastic, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. It then
More
activates
than
a,
ever, our customers are asking for more
Oh,
sustainable
we've got some
solutions
video,
to bring
it's not.
Try one more time.
I think they have even less landfill space than maybe we do,
Who's that?
Massachusetts, so they're probably even more looking to zero out their trash waste.
They've had a
Yeah.
moratorium for well
Yeah.
over 25 years
Yeah, they
on
don't
any
have
waste.
any place to put it, so.
Yeah, well, we're
they
all
gotta
running out
figure
of
it
space, there's
Yeah,
no doubt,
gotta
you
figure
know,
it out, so.
yeah.
But where I was going with this is I highly recommend that if you have time, as a group or individually, we can arrange for you to have a tour of the facility. They love doing tours. And the gentleman by the name of Bobby Capadona, he runs the plant, and Austin McKnight, second in command, I think, and they just love to show people they're proud of what they've done. And when you go through this thing and you see what this machinery does, I couldn't do it justice by trying to describe it to you.
That's great. I took a tour with my granddaughter 10 years ago. She went to
That's awesome.
bad. Machinery wasn't working, stuff was falling off, lights were flat. It was just an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
So, and I knew it could be better. It's just wonderful to be use.
Well, the place still smells.
Of course, you can't.
I don't wanna, pump it up too much. I'll tell you, the technology is just amazing.
I gotta get out of there and do that.
Yeah.
See that.
Yeah, like I said, we just finished that, year and a half, 2 years ago. It was a $20 million project to basically completely update all of that information. We just did the same at our Willimantic, Connecticut MRF. And hopefully in, Auburn, Massachusetts, in another year, we'll do the same, so. And it takes that scrambled egg, de-scrambles it. In Charlestown, they do about 800 tons a day in. And so that means 800 tons a day are going back out, and it's going to all those mills, and some of it overseas, but just so everyone knows, we've made an agreement with other large national companies like Waste Management and Republic, that all of our plastics that we produce, we will not export those, because we just don't feel comfortable with how they, what the impact might be at some nation in Africa or wherever. So we handle all of those plastics domestically in North America.
Yeah, very encouraging stuff.
Yeah.
So, Joe, how much time do we have left on the clock here?
Till 8:30.
Do you want to do a roundabout, see if we want one last question and then cap it off or something like that?
Do you have anything else?
I think it's probably more important to get some questions answered. If anybody has some burning questions, and if we need to, we can kind of wrap things up.
Well, one of the takeaways I got is, at a minimum, one of the things we could do is an educational type campaign. Reduce, reuse, recycle, that we could do some kind of campaign on it. I was thinking maybe we can talk to Todd, the superintendent, get some of the high school kids or something.
Usable grocery bags, cheap.
Casella has some resources available to help out with some like marketing, logos, graphics, and things like that we can help you out with.
Do you guys have any experience with educational campaigns that are becoming more effective than others?
Supporting them, not doing them.
Well, you might have
But yeah,
some ideas of what tends to work better.
Another thought
Mixed messaging, changing it up, I think works very good. Definitely, I mean, social media is huge, and schools are huge.
Oh, yeah.
I have mixed thoughts. So some of the things I was thinking is, a better campaign on separating materials, but it kind of sounds like we're looking to maybe go the automated route in the not too distant future.
Someday we'll most likely have no choice but to do the automation.
I understand the contract's coming up towards the end of the year. Would it happen? Soon?
No, definitely not that quickly, but, what we're hoping for, and we've had talks with Dover, everything references Dover, is because of the paper bag, we're hoping they'll figure it out and we'll copy what they did. Because they're really good at what they do with it. And that's kind of, and they're still scratching their head over to keep paper bag and keep it up like it is. Like me and Lindsay have had meetings with them.
So would we be correct in telling the public that it's more eco-friendly to use your recycled bins so long as you use them correctly than to take stuff to the transfer station?
The curbside is
Curbside is more eco-friendly
most
because they can do a better job of sorting it than the transfer station can at the moment. So encourage people to use the curbside service.
There are people though that just want to bring it every Saturday, that's just there, it's like that's what they live for. They like to go up there, I really do, it's funny to me when you have the service at your driveway. You know what I mean?
The town of Candia, when I was a young kid, I had to go over there, their incinerator, and it broke down, so I was there with a real load truck to take it. And every weekend, it's like 300 people there, and what's going on? You know, we can come pick it up at your door for, they just wanted to talk to everybody, and
Yeah.
see everybody, and meet everyone,
It's
and
the social event
Social
of the
gathering.
town.
one guy used to say,
Like
it
last
was my only
Saturday.
time to get away from my wife. So, you know.
We had a really nice weather day last Saturday, and that place was right out of control.
Oh,
People got in the mood, you know, we've had a bad winter, cleaning up, doing stuff, and that place was just like the mall at
I was
Christmas.
bringing my printer there last Saturday, and I brought it today instead. Boy, that little shack for electronic, beautifully organized. Big old printer cost $15 to, put it in, that's good.
Yeah, I was impressed as well. I wouldn't discourage people from going there. I think it's a good solution for a certain residents. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was more encouraged just trying to make a better mousetrap out of it, that, more efficient, less costly. Like we talked about earlier, it's possible, but you want to start here, and then one question each, and
Okay, sure. Would you be able to send a link to that video to us? And any other links that might show us the
We-
automation?
We
that you
definitely
guys-
will do that.
Thank you.
thank you.
I just want to thank you guys for coming tonight. It's been great. I appreciate it. Thanks for answering all my questions already, so thanks a lot.
This is
Yeah, I've heard
just
about
as
it.
educational for us as it is for you, so thank you.
Been very encouraging, I appreciate that. I know there's, we hear all the time about the tremendous problems nationwide with plastics and with almost everything. And it seems like you guys are on top of that, so that's encouraging.
yeah, I too am encouraged. One question that might be not really tantamount, but last week I was doing my recycling and I had this jug of milk and the milk was bad. I mean, it had gone bad. I never even opened the thing. Should I pour that out
Absolutely.
before recycling?
Even if the milk was good, it shouldn't go in recycling. So, yeah. Yeah, the containers really need to be emptied. I think a lot of people ask, does it need to be rinsed out or washed out?
Yeah.
I mean, we would like that. You're a super recycler if you do that. But it doesn't necessarily need to be. I would just make sure that, upside down, drip stop, I think you're good. But understand that, especially time of year, right, you heard Tony say earlier about things smelling, right? I mean, it's gonna sit in your bin for how many days? It's gonna sit in a truck and then could possibly sit at the Allentown's transfer station for a day, come down to Charlestown. So it could be 3 days before we get it, and on a hot July day, that could kind of be nasty.
Take a second I got a thing that crushes cans right like that. Take probably 10 seconds to rinse out the empty soda can, crush it, throw it in the recycle bin, and then it doesn't smell.
Right.
So I'll answer two things there. So I guess I'm glad you brought it up. You don't need to take the caps off of bottles. That gets asked a lot. You can leave the cap on there. You also don't need to, and we probably prefer that you don't crush it, or at least not crush it. The way the sorting equipment works, the more three-dimensional the container is, the better off it is.
Okay, that's good though.
So if I want to tell the story so bad because it blows my mind, but to his point, of course, aluminum cans get eddy currented out, so the more weight they have to them, the harder it is for them to get jumped up, right? They go under the radar, but if they're a body, they get picked up. But the plastics, when these laser beams come down and they identify the molecular structure with a laser beam of the particular plastic that's going down the conveyor, and then it activates a air nozzle, correct me if I'm wrong here, and points it to go towards the right bin. So it's just pop, 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 as this whole conveyor is going down with these tons and tons of materials on it. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And then you look in the bins afterwards, and you see red, and you see opaque, and you see, all the different types going into the different, obviously, there's some that needs to be sorted out after it, but it's just amazing. So, but to his point, if it has body to it, the air can push it easier. If it's crushed, like I used to crush my water bottles and then put the cap back on so that I'd have more room in my recycling bin.
Yeah.
It's not really a good thing.
Is that the same with aluminum cans then?
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Okay.
I know after you drink it, you kind of pop it against your head.
Yeah, right.
You can still do that, though.
I mean, there's got to be some way we can educate everybody. I mean, right now, we're the only ones getting this
That's right.
education. So there's probably many other people in Newmarket doing the same thing, thinking that they're being helped.
Right.
It's almost like, I don't know, like this education, I don't know.
So
And the key is to not make it too complicated, because a lot of the public just goes, okay, enough,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll just turn, kind of like my kids, they just tune you out.
Like me, third grade level.
So my parting comment was going to be, my last thing to say was, how do you get this education out there? And for a community like this, this is my fourth one in the last month and a half, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Education from a group like this, you need to be the leaders that spark everyone else. You can't do it all. There's just no way you can do it all. You need to get people on your side. So Facebook and, schools, okay? Kids are great at this, right? Because they go home and tell their parents, well, they tell me I got to do this, and the parents say, okay, right? So that's really where you can make your most impact. It's not just going out there and doing it yourself, but finding other people that you can bring into the fold. And I would start by looking at other towns' Facebook pages, like, Hampstead, I think, has a really robust one, where they've got a really large group of people that follow on sustainability efforts that are not just a curbside or whatnot, but also the textiles and the composting and, library books, you name it. So you have a lot that you can do here without having to do it all yourself. That would be my best advice.
Is there like a refrigerator magnet that has all this information on it?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Well,
I don't know what kind of logos we have, that we,
they're just
that
too
we help.
small. They don't have enough space. Your best thing is like pictorial like this with a magnet holding it to the refrigerator, like
There
the
you
old
go.
phone book page that used to put up there. But the one thing you got to be careful about with bank phone book pages is, people that still have their phone book page from 1970, okay, aren't going to do too well with their phone book page on the refrigerator. If they have a recycling brochure from their town, that when they first learned recycling in 2006, all these things, plastic bags were encouraged, okay? All these things were, you got to update your material every now and then. So If you, if you want materials, we have PDFs, all this stuff is available online, we can help you obtain it as a committee. But I would more encourage trying to get people to swap out the old to the new. Get them to know that something's changed in what they learned in 2006. You need to, update yourself, okay? And a lot of people still think plastic bags are okay. And they don't keep track of, they work all day, they come home, they're tired. They're not looking for education on recycling. They did that 20 years ago. So that's another effort you can make, is to try to get them to put the new brochure up on their refrigerator, I guess, so.
George,
No more further questions from me, so thank you both for kind of answering those in stride as I was asking for your presentation. And this has been super helpful. I really appreciate your time.
I want to thank you guys for coming down and doing your presentation. I think it's very helpful for these folks.
I didn't say anything wrong, right? Tell Steve, Joe didn't blow it.
I'll back you up.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to see that Newmarket is doing better than I thought. Like I say, I go down to the transfer station, I look in that bin, and I see all sorts of stuff there. So we're not doing a good job. So I'm glad to see that we're actually doing pretty good.
Everybody can do better.
Make sure you tell Steve that, will you?
Yeah, no, I will. At the next council meeting, I will mention that, what we talked about today. And thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. And Lindsay, I appreciate you guys coming in,
Yeah.
keeping us honest.
Lindsay, any questions?
I guess I do. I was gonna, you mentioned composting and Casella potentially getting into some of that as that advances. Is that on the near horizon?
So it's going to be, it's going to take some years because this is politically driven. Okay, so Representative Evil, I don't know if you know Karen Evil, she's been driving that bus politically. She's on the solid waste committee, and they are working hard to push a similar program that you're seeing in some of our surrounding states. Okay. No one's talking about bottle bills, but they are talking about composting and mattresses and recycling mandates. That will take some years. But just like in Massachusetts, they planted a seed, they made it a law, and whenever you make something a law, you have law-abiding entities and law-abiding citizens that embrace law. They don't look at it as, how am I supposed to do that? They look at it, hey, I'm supposed to do this, I gotta find a way. So Harvard and MIT and McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's, they all found a way to make composting work from a business standpoint, because they're the ones that were producing 500 pounds a week of material, right? And as they followed the law, they created these industries like the Mr. Foxes of the world, okay? And it became sustainable, cost affordable for restaurants to start doing it, okay? Smaller restaurants that normally couldn't afford to do that. That will sweep up this way, along with mattresses and recycling mandates, right? Towns that don't recycle are going to have to stop recycling at some point because it'll be a law, most likely. So, so you've got some years, but I would use those years to educate, to see what the other states and what's happening in the local politics. I've learned a lot on the Waste Council. I've been on it, it's my 10th year now. And I've learned a lot about how things work. So I'm not as discouraged as I was when I first got on the council as to, this is a true story. Our mandate is reduce, reuse, recycle, and all the way out of the bottom is landfill, and in between you've got composting and burn plants. We don't have not one recycling plant in the state of New Hampshire, i.e. we export 100% of all recyclables out of our state to other states that have processing plants. That's not such a bad thing because we like it as Casella, but from a standpoint of someone who's up in Berlin, New Hampshire, okay, and they've got to ship all the way down to Boston or over to, Scarborough, Maine, or maybe into Vermont somewhere. It makes it harder for them to afford to recycle because it's costing them more money to get it there. So eventually, we're probably going to see a recycling processing plant in New Hampshire, which will probably be so centrally located, which will make it more affordable and spark more of the stuff, which will make your job easier. Because it kind of goes outwards. So, but it'll be several years for it to kick in.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Great question. How about the gallery? You've been kind of quiet over there.
Well, this has been a fascinating opportunity for me to listen to the committee, and I've learned a ton. Paul's mentioned to me over the years some tips on recycling, and I didn't even realize that about the shredded paper. But there's a few things that kind of come to mind. Organic. Well, I love our transfer station. Most people organic waste curbside recycling. I agree, single stream with recycling just makes it so much easier, rather than having to separate out all the different containers and materials. We have a backyard composter. I realize not everybody can do that based on their housing management, but for those that are able to use it, it's a very inexpensive way to figure out a lot of food waste into the backyard composter. I still have lots of questions about paper waste, paper to recycle. I purposely don't even put my paper out when I know it's going to rain because I'm afraid it's going to get wet. Because then I feel like it devalues by the time it gets to the recycling plant. I have no idea if that's true or not. It's maybe a myth, or maybe it's reality. I think about the bottle caps. I've been taking caps off my bottles because I thought that was the right thing to do. So I think there's so much opportunity to educate and for us all to learn. So
Yeah.
it's a huge step forward.
I think that's where social media just has this cool niche where you just get the message out. And you usually have someone in town that is managing some of those pages and can just keep refreshing. And more often than not, they're looking for new material to kind of spice things up. And so things like on composting or what to do with, best way to recycle. I think there's a huge opportunity there.
What is the answer to that question about putting paper and cardboard out?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of moisture or snow that is hitting the paper or cardboard can absolutely degrade it. I mean, so forgive me, your curbside bins don't have any sort of covering on them?
No.
Yeah, so I would, cardboard is not going to absorb it as much, so I would recommend that you put cardboard on top and then all your paper underneath that, and I think you're fine with that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I always tell the story, we do bonfires, I'm up on Lake Winnisquam, and we do bonfires every weekend almost with pallets, right? We recycle pallets into firewood. So we started with
That might not be
cardboard.
recycled.
But there's always someone who puts cardboard in the fire pit in preparation for starting the fire. And it's amazing, okay, that one piece of cardboard, after the fire's been burning all night, and into the next morning, you go out to clean out the pit, and guess what's still underneath all that ash and coal? A fresh piece of cardboard. It's amazing. But kind of what Paul's saying is that, it'll protect everything else underneath it. And even if the top piece gets saturated, most of the stuff underneath, it's rolling through.
Yeah,
So
the paper fibers in cardboard are much stronger and tougher than your newspaper, magazine, and junk mail, so if you put that on top, if you're a beer drinker, which I'm not quite sure, but if you have a case type, that 12 pack or whatever, that's ideal. That actually already has a little bit of a moisture retardant in it, so put that one right on top.
I do have one question that I don't know the answer to. Sometimes I give advice out thinking it's the right stuff, but first off, the cap thing is because we still have the 2006 poster up that said no caps, okay, remove caps. But the shredded paper thing, I've always encouraged people to put your shredded paper into an old, like, shopping bag,
Paper bag.
paper bag, and give it some bulk so it can make it through the process. Is that a wise tale, or is that got some truth?
Is a little bit of wishful thinking, to be honest with you. So you might fall into the category mentioned earlier, so. Part of the sorting system sorts by size, and so shredded paper comes out in the very beginning with the glass, if it goes in as shredded paper. A paper bag that is, and we've seen them where they're stapled closed, you're hoping that it goes through the process of being compacted in a truck, dumped on a tip floor, reloaded into a trailer, brought all the way down, fed into a system that has a unit that kind of feeds it, and that it's somehow going to make it to the paper side of the sorting system.
Gotcha.
It's probably less than 50% that it's gonna happen, so. We do see full clear bags of shredded paper that come in, and as much as possible, the guys try to grab those and kick those off to the side. But the more automated we are, and there's less of an opportunity for those clear bags to stay intact.
So this is a perfect subject for your social media to figure out. What's the best way to get rid of shredded confidential material, right? It's a great, it shouldn't be in there. Let's alert people of that. How can we get rid of it, like the bags that you bring back to market? Maybe that's one of your subjects.
I would say that we encourage the mobile shred trucks at your bank and insurance office in this time of year, tax season. We encourage that. So that's where a community shred day comes into play. And that paper, by the way, is now a whole truck of nothing but shredded paper that bypasses this whole sorting process because it's sort of separated. So then it gets baled separately, goes to a tissue mill in Irving, Massachusetts to get made back into facial tissues.
Do you do what's, household hazardous, or are you teaming up?
No, we do,
Do your own?
in the fall.
Okay. So maybe, I guess the suggestion, maybe you could also have a mobile shredding day.
Yeah.
That's sponsored, maybe there's some way to incorporate that into your equipment.
Well, I guess I want, on Casella's behalf, I really want to thank you for being so interested, really. I mean, this is, what I like to say, we tend to preach to this choir, and really the toughest part is getting that message out to guys like this. So, but we'll work together on that. So, but thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That YouTube link, if it isn't, it may already be in some of the stuff that you gave us.
We'll probably send you the presentation as a whole, and I know it's embedded in that presentation.
Okay, cool.
Good.
The YouTube video?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find it too by searching Charlestown recycling facility on YouTube.
Yeah.
It would come up.
Yeah, Casella's got a couple of cool videos up there, different things, some older than others, and we're trying to embrace social media and all that as well.
And Joe, I can, I don't know if you have a group email, but I can certainly send to you any PDFs that I can find that might help you.
For Rick.
Or Rick, yes, I got
You have those, yeah.
Excellent. Open call. Send to everybody, anyone can. Real quick, this doesn't have to be a one-time thing, okay? I can come back, a couple times a year, whatever works for you guys, okay? Or if you feel you need a presentation, or you've gotten somewhere and you want to buy us, but, so don't be shy. That's what we enjoy doing this, so. Also, it's note the pin on my shirt here, but it's happy birthday to Casella that he's turned 50. So,
Yeah, thanks very much.
Me too.
I'm only 50, that's right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
For the rest of the group, I just, one or two things to cover. I sent you all the energy chapter of the master plan in the spreadsheet. You guys can take a look through it, the next week or so. Just, you don't have to spend a lot of time, just kind of take a look through it. Send any questions, comments, or edits or whatever you think. Send them to me and Kerry and
Yes.
Lindsay?
Carrie,
Okay, or-
yep.
Or if you just want to send it to me, I'll get it to Terry and Lindsay. And that's about it. Oh, yeah, our next meeting. If we stick with the last Wednesday of the month, our next meeting would be the 30th. I would like to actually change that to the 23rd, so that for the master plan, we can get that going a little bit faster. Does that seem okay? Okay,
We'll have
Wednesday,
a
the
new
23rd.
planning board rep at that meeting, just so you know.
What?
Since my term's over at the end of this month, so you'll have someone new though.
Okay, same thing with Julianne. Her time for the Conservation Commission is up, and she has
Oh, okay.
decided not to re-up, so
Oh, okay.
we're waiting to hear.
You'll get a new rep.
What date did you say?
The 23rd, April 23rd, Wednesday.
One other thing, Joe, and maybe this will come out of town council, but usually we've had a town cleanup, roadside cleanup around the end of April, or, yeah, usually it is around the end of April that we do it. People just fan out across the streets and pick up all the garbage that's been dropped.
Yeah, Tony is already, Tony's is doing that, she already announced that, I forget what the date is.
Okay. So there is a date set for that? Okay.
Mhm.
Make sure that gets out there so people know about it, because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, she just
Do you,
sent it.
do you know when that is yet, Rick?
I'm trying to look at the email, I just
Okay.
got it.
Okay. Yeah. I
It
would
looks like April
encourage people
27th.
to 27th? I
Looks
would
like
encourage people to participate in that. It's an opportunity to, help pick up stuff. It always happens every winter. People throw stuff out, sits on the side of the road, and we get it all cleaned up. And then people, I think, are less likely to throw it this much when things look really clean in town. So, you never know what you're going to find.
I've done it.
I've done this a number of years, and every year I find something that is a surprise. So it could be a little bit of an exciting treasure hunt. You never know.
You're a great salesman.
I've done it the last couple of years with my grandkids. We do New Road, and I can't believe the number of beer cans that we find. I don't know whether Public Works is down there, but I
That's
don't want to say.
Not Public Works.
the little ones, the nip
The nips.
bottle. Yes,
Mm.
those
Beer cans and cigarette butts.
killer. Yeah.
Don't crush them.
Yeah. Don't crush the can dip. We know that now.
So, yeah, okay, so if that's the 27th, we meet the 23rd, would be a good time to also say that. Well, thank you all for attending, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
With that,
Well, before you guys go, I can tell you, I moved to Newmarket 25 years ago, and I was always loved the transfer station. First thing that we loved was that Jimmy attendant who looked like Santa Claus. That just was the quintessential dumb guy to my wife.
it's not with us anymore.
That was a lot of years ago, but you guys just get there over the years. So.
I've been to that station probably 8 or 10 times, and I have yet to meet a human being
what, the transfer-
at the transfer station.
Oh, really? I've only gone there a few times, and somebody's there all the time when I go there, taking my money,
Yeah.
Nobody's there.
Yeah, there's usually
taking
someone
my
there.
check.
If you don't stop at the stop sign at Hudson Navy too,
Oh, yeah.
they may not stop.
Yeah, I stop at
All
the
right,
booth.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
Well, it was nice having you on the committee for these 2 times that I've been
I'm glad I
here.
got you on.
Yeah.